r/AskReddit by Reddit. What was your "it seemed like a good idea at the time" story? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Enjoy the video. I let my 14-year-old cousin at the time try driving the family car. I was like 18 back then, or 20, and I told him it's easy to drive an automatic car, basically like driving a go-kart. Told him gas was right and brakes were center. I forgot to mention that changing the gear to D will automatically have the car move. We both panicked and hit a ducking tree in front of us at probably 1 miles per hour. Luckily we were in our neighborhood by a dead end. Lol. My dad got out of the car one time and left it running when I was like 5, so this was 95 or 96. He literally just put it in park, got out, left the door open, and was rummaging through the trunk for something while parked on a very private side street. It was very slightly downhill. Me, being 5, hops over into the driver's seat, puts it in drive, still not sure how I did it, and reach the brakes. I don't remember that much, and the car just starts moving. I panicked as much as my dad, and I'll never forget just freezing as I see him just jump, take 3 massive strides, throw me in the passenger seat and hit the brake. So I was in Uganda with my family, and we see a large, about 5 foot tall, curled up leaf hanging about 8 feet off the ground. We are told that these leaves curl up and fall out the trees, and they are pretty heavy, so it can be dangerous to have it fall on you. My dad and I think, won't it be helpful of us to get this thing down? So we are there whacking it with sticks, trying to get it down, to no avail, when my dad says, "Hey, climb up on that wall there, son, and jump. Grab it and then pull it down." Well, that sounds like a swell idea, Dad. So I do just that. I don't manage to get it all the way down, but as soon as I hit the ground, I get this burning sensation in my elbow. Turns out there's a hive of Ugandan mud wasps living in this specific leaf, and they do not take kindly to young men trying to tug their home down. So I'm just sprinting back to the office, where the rest of my family is sheltered from the sun, and I practically have 2 elbows on one arm at this point while, as my dad described it later, an army of large, black blots give chase. I make it back inside, and my arm is numb, except for the searing pain in my elbow. Thankfully, there was no further reaction. The pain lasted only around 3 hours and the swelling was down by the end of the day. That being said, it was the worst pain I've ever felt. Even worse than the time I broke my arm into 3 pieces while arm wrestling. I ran across the street with my eyes closed when I was 14. I didn't get hit by a car. However, I ran into a tree head first and cut my face and knee open. For all of you asking what my thought process was, it is as follows. Who am I kidding? I have no idea what I was thinking. So back in the day, my brothers and I were shooting a bow and arrow behind our house. We had a proper backstop and a nice target on a bale of hay. After about an hour we were getting bored, and one of my brothers had a stroke of genius. Let's ducking light one on fire. So there we are, wiring rags to arrows and soaking them in gas and shooting stuff. Didn't take long and half the yard was on fire. We'd shot pretty much every flammable thing we could burn in the yard. Since we were running short on stuff to shoot, my brother decided to launch one in a 45 degrees arc over the woods behind the house. We all watched it, so laughing and giggling. When it hit the apex was when it dawned on us that this was in fact a really stupid ducking idea. All 6 of us sprinted off into the woods in the direction it had been shot. Wasn't hard to find, it had lit an entire little meadow on fire. So we ran around stomping out fires for an hour. When we finally got the fire put out, we were sitting by the creek and my oldest brother looks at us all and says, "Dad never hears a word about this." In high school, my friend discovered that he was particularly agile at running toward a wall and kicking off of it into a backflip. He would do this all day, every day, before school, at lunch, etc. One day we were inside a classroom and the teacher had stepped out for a moment. Of course he took this opportunity to try his little trick. He didn't, however, take into account the fact that drywall might not support his weight as well as the brick and concrete walls he'd tried before. His leg ended up busting straight through the wall to the other side, into a classroom full of students taking an exam. so I wasn't actually in the class taking the exam, but to this day, I still imagine how strange and hilarious it would be to be sitting in that class then suddenly see a leg burst through the wall. Makes me smile just thinking about it. Reminds me of a time I was in high school. We had 2 different lunch periods, so some people were in class while others were in lunch. We were allowed to go outside on days when it was nice, so we took this opportunity to play some frisbee. Well, an unexpected breeze came along and took the frisbee off course and perfectly through a 3rd floor window and hit a kid taking an exam. I always chuckle thinking of everyone quietly taking a test safely inside the classroom when out of nowhere bam. Worst part was the teacher wouldn't toss us back the frisbee. When I was 15, my best friend and I just got new BB pistols. They were the wireless EP99. Looked identical to the real wireless EP9 with a removable magazine and no orange tip. We were playing with them in the backseat of his mom's car. They weren't loaded. We were just excited and wanted to take them out of the box. She knew we had them out and didn't think anything of it. This was the late 90s BTW. Before going back to his house, she went through the drive-thru at Burger King. You know where this is going. She's ordering food with 2 large 15-year-olds holding guns and pointing them at everything. Fast forward 30 minutes, we are pulling into their driveway and his dad comes running out of the house yelling hysterically. One of his friends just called and said he heard on the police scanner that they were looking for his vehicle with 2 white males holding a female hostage at gunpoint. Few minutes later, several police cars pull in the driveway, jump out with guns out, making everyone get on the ground. It took some explaining on his dad's part about us being a bunch of dumbasses. 15-year-old me couldn't figure out what all the fuss was about, but 34-year-old me looks back and realizes that might be the dumbest thing I have ever done. On a rainy day, I saw a hitchhiker near the university asking for a ride. He looked the part of a student. Although I never pick up hitchhikers, I felt sorry for him standing in the rain and gave him a lift. It felt like the right thing to do at the time. He told me where he was headed, so I went out of my way to drive him there. The guy just kept staring at me and said very little. When we arrived at his destination, he wouldn't get out of my car, no matter what. Finally, when a police officer came along, I told him to hop out or I'd call a cop over for help. That ended it. But if the officer hadn't come by, I have no idea what might have happened. This reminds me of a friend of mine from high school named Keelan and his hitchhiking in the rain story. He was walking back from a friend's house along this decently heavy traffic road. It started pouring down really hard, and he still had like 15 to 20 minutes more of walking to go, so he just lifted his shirt over his head to shield the rain a bit. This truck sees him and pulls over and yells out to him if he wanted a ride to get out of the rain. He accepts and gets into the truck and starts guiding him where he needs to go. The drive wasn't going to be very long, but from the get-go the driver made things a little uneasy for him. He had a worried feeling at the bottom of his stomach, so he decided to tell him to stop about 5 blocks from his house so he wouldn't know exactly where he lives. Keelan thanks the man, and as he's getting out the driver blurts out, "Hey, would you like a blowjob before you go?" Keelan was completely shocked by that, but he was also an extremely nice and polite guy, so he just says, "Thanks, but I'm okay." The driver replies by saying, "That's fine, you're a good looking guy and just thought I'd ask." It was such a bizarre moment, but Keelan was glad this guy wasn't like super aggressive and tried to force him to do something, since he was a pretty scrawny guy. After that he decided to never take a ride from a stranger again in case the next person wasn't as polite as that guy. I had just finished this bike ride with my scout troop and we ended it at the side of a river. So waiting for our parents to pick us up, the boys all go to a rope swing to duck around in the river. It was absurdly shallow. The furthest swing would still land you in 3-foot water. Average lazy swing was 2 feet deep or so. Mom comes. Some dad hollers at me that she's arrived. I run back until I can see her getting out of the car and yell, "One more swing, Mom, I'll be right back." She seems in a good mood, says okay, starts chatting with other adults there. So not 2 minutes later I walk up to her with a broken arm. I had gone back for that one more swing, screwed up and planted my wrist into the shallow water, broke my arm, and got out of the water saying bye without telling the kids what I'd done. Just sorta walked up to my mom, Hey, I just broke my arm. Sorry. She was not pleased like, seriously flick underscore my underscore bick, you had to go for one more swing. Mon, let's go get a cast, you idiot. Thank you for watching Reddit. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more r/AskReddit videos. Share your stories in the comment section below.